All right, I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Gainesville Community Reinvestment Area Advisory Board for February 15th, 2022, 5:30 p.m. We have quorum, so want to staff or roll call?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Member Brown. Member Osgood. Here. Member Fox.
Here.
Member Ivy.
Here.
Member Mitchell. Here. Member Norquist.
Here.
Member Blount. Vice Chair Palmer.
Here.
Chair Seawright. Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Great. On to our next item, the adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
I move, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Moved and second. Right, those in favor? Member Fox moved and member Mitchell second.
Okay, thank you.
And we'll take that to a vote. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. And I will, if you are ready, I will pass on the gavel to member Seawright to take over chair duties.
Come on, time to be ready.
We are on approval of minutes.
Next item is approval of minutes. Can I get a motion on the floor?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor to approve the minutes of our last meeting, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Communication. Let's go to the director's report, and then we'll come back to the sheriff's report.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to save all my director's talking points for the presentation.
Okay.
So if there are any specific questions, I'm happy to answer them now, or we can wait, go through the presentation and discuss afterwards. I have a lot of updates.
Okay. Is one of your updates, Hartwood? Okay. Is there a staff report? All right, I do have a few comments on the sheriff's report. If you all, I think if you were aware, I think last time I spoke about that I was going to be meeting with the city manager to talk about, she had asked to speak to me about CRA. So we met twice, we had two short phone calls with regards to the CRA. I'll say this, I think I asked as many of the questions I had asked. I think right now the city is going through some transition. Some of the departments, the Capers is no longer Capers, it's now under Capers under planning. Did our project go with paid Capers? I think I was told it didn't. With the exception of one of the things they talked about was Capers, not Capers, Department of Doing would be overseeing the downtown strategic plan, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sarah, the downtown strategic plan. As far as any of our other projects, we never got to a clear conversation about what was going to happen. I think there's a lot going on with the city and the county. I think they're trying to work those things out. I will say this, and I did say this, and Sarah will agree. You know, I explained we're a volunteer board. You know, and we take a lot of our time to come because we care about the communities that we serve. If you don't need us and not going to use us, then why have us? I was very strongly opinionated. I don't really know what direction is taken. I don't think personally for me I got a really clear understanding. I think we were getting there. I just don't think both of our meetings were cut short. She was called out on both of them on both occasions. She had other ones scheduled. So, you know, I don't think we ever really talked about, hey, this is what the CRA has got on the table. This is what this particular board, advisory board, has discussed. These are the things we would like to see moved. I was very clear about, I wasn't pleased about capers. I thought that the introduction of capers, when it came into play, it took us off track. Maybe by design, I don't know, but it took us off track. I think we got into more of a conversation of how capers was going to do this project, and it seemed like every time we got ready to get down to the projects that we had discussed, there was never any real movement. I do know, if y'all have been paying attention to the county commission, the county commission is asking questions. What have we done? You know, what have we done? You know, one of the major things when this board was reorganized, we were supposed to be doing a major transformational project in the east side of Gainesville. That hasn't happened. I don't think it has happened. Well, first of all, I'm a realist. No transformational project is going to happen in East Gainesville in 2 years. I just, you know, but where is the plan? And I think we got a lot of good ideas, but I think we got our ideas got offset by some of the things that they wanted to see happen in the under the description of capers and those type of things. That was my opinion. So I just want to let y'all know that's the opinion I gave for me. But I think Mrs. City Manager is planning to be coming to our meeting to talk to us about some of the things that she's proposing, that she's looking at. You know, I've often said, you know, I've been around CRA most of my professional life. Most of y'all know I worked there 10.5 years, left there, and then started sitting on all the boards. You know, and to me personally, I think wherein I thought it was a great idea to bring all the boards together and make one board, in order for us to be able to assist some of the projects that we wanted to see done in East Gainesville. I think it was a great idea. I think where, personally for me, where it went amok is when the CRA lost its autonomy, when it became a city department. And I think now, you know, they're caught up in this wheel of politics, for lack of a better word. And I think right now they're trying with a new city manager that she's trying to figure it out. And so where we are, in my opinion, is we're still coming to these meetings, we're still moving forward with the work that we want to do. But I don't know how much of a turnaround we'll get with in the time that we have allotted to use to make these things happen. If that makes sense. Member Fox.
Thank you, Member Seawright. For the new members, I guess you need to tell them what capers is. And I'm very disappointed on the speed that we're moving. I don't know what's going on. Like we started the paint project. I don't know what happened with that. We were supposed to be doing some rehab to older houses, and I met with Chelsea and I spoke with her on the phone. But I don't see anything really moving but the student houses and stuff. That's the only development that I see. I don't see anything where the CRA is real. I agree with you. There's nothing being moved forward. And we had some timelines set on some things, unless I missed something, but I don't see anything that we're doing. Maybe I'm just lost. And then with the staff having no report, we don't know what's going on with we don't know what projects are being moved forward. And maybe if you had made your presentation before right after the president's report, the chair's report, then we could have better questions to answer. But it looked like we hadn't stagnated or something, I don't know.
So I think most of the, and just, I think most of the members, they know what capers is.
Okay.
They've been for the last couple of years.
Okay.
So, and we've discussed, Madam Foster, we've had discussions about those different projects. We've had discussions about those recently. And so I think that's gonna be part of Sarah's update, that
Okay.
you'll be able to answer.
Okay, thank you.
But I just wanted to talk about, I had, at the last meeting, I had told everyone that I was invited to speak with City Manager. I just wanted everybody to know what that entailed. So, I would encourage any of you all to get, if you have time to take an appointment to speak to the city manager. She was very welcoming, so she wants to hear, what I say. But I think like anything, she's new. And CRA have a whole bunch of issues outside of just this last transition, and with county, there's a joint county city meeting come up March 2nd, is it? That you all, I would suggest everyone on this board, if they have opportunity, probably can't make it, but you can try to listen to it or go back. So, because I'm pretty sure we're on the agenda. And I think it's gonna be a very interesting conversation, for lack of better things to say. You know what else? Any comments about it? Okay. That's all I had on that. So, next item on the agenda was the consent agenda. Opportunities to look at that. Can I get a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented? Can I get a second? I'm sorry, member Norquist moved and member, I'm sorry, with blank, second. It's been moved upon the second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is under our business discussion, and it's the University Avenue and 13th Street corridor study.
I don't know if that was our cue or not, or if Melissa wants to say anything first. Or
I'm sorry, I thought it was Sarah, I didn't know.
Yeah, we're here to speak to this item. HDR was our consultant on this project for phase one that GCRA dollars were used for. So we have Jeff Arms and Megan Ferguson to bring everyone up to date on the phase one part of this project. Thanks, Jeff.
sure. I'll just do, Megan will share screen. I'll do brief introductions, but really serving more as a project principal role, and Megan's been the project manager as we've been navigating this process. So we've been fortunate to be able to try to help out on this important project. We have been studying with phase one, the limits all the way out from Northwest 22nd all the way to Northeast 3rd, and then on 13th Street from 5th Avenue Northwest down to 9th Avenue Southwest. There is a phase two project that we're still in the midst of that will continue further in every direction. And I'm sure Melissa can talk more about that later, but we're not quite there yet with any recommendations or feedback. The purpose and goals of the project was really about improving safety, prioritizing people, and developing some concepts that could potentially move into the PD&E phase. And we're looking at both some interim and ultimate improvements. And where we left it off is that we've laid some great groundwork to continue progress, and the city is actually advertised, I believe, the PD&E study to keep going with the projects. That's exciting that things are continuing to move forward. So with that, I'll let Megan kind of touch on some of the background. And
all right, thanks, Jeff. And thanks again, everyone, for having us here today. As Jeff said, we're really excited to get the opportunity to work on this project and improve the area that him and I both went to school in and still visit frequently. So before we get into the solutions, I did want to share the idea and the process behind developing the solutions. And these pictures aren't intended to necessarily read every single one, but to show an overview of the data and analysis that was done on the front end of the project. We wanted to make sure anything proposed was data-driven and had a proven safety improvement on the roadway. So we looked at the overlap of modes between vehicles, bicycles, pedestrians, micromobility. We looked at the different multimodal networks, which includes the bicycle facility, the transit routes, and also the heavily used vehicle roads. We also looked at the populations which we're serving and designing solutions for. And most importantly, we really understood the crashes that had occurred along the corridor and where the high spots were for increased potential for injuries. So with that, I'd like to step through each of the different areas we looked at. We divided the corridor into different areas based on the surrounding land use and what we call a context classification, whether there are more businesses or more residential uses lining the street. This first section is for West University, and the map is looking north with the University of Florida in the bottom left-hand corner. This is from 22nd, just past 13th Street. And to do the comparison, we are showing here what is out there today. If you drive along the corridor, this is facing east with University of Florida on the right-hand side, and the Midtown area, so around 17th and 18th, Fletcher and Buckman area. Today, we know there are 4 lanes. And there are some medians throughout, but not consistently. So what is proposed is maintaining those 4 lanes, but increasing the width of the sidewalks and adding more consistent medians throughout the entire stretch. Medians have about a 40% potential to reduce pedestrian crashes, which is why we proposed those. These sidewalks, particularly on the north side of the road with the new apartment buildings and the commercial businesses, that sidewalk is proposed to be increased by approximately double in width. Right now, the current recommendation for sidewalk width for an area of this characteristic is 15 feet. So we're right at around 16 there. We've also shown the potential UF path along University on the right side of the screen and how these improvements would integrate with them. And we did want to note that one of the goals of this project was to evaluate lane repurposing, which has been shown to reduce vehicle speeds. As vehicles are traveling slower, there's less likelihood of a severe crash if it comes in collision with the person. Unfortunately, right now on this road, the traffic volumes are higher than state and even national guidance. But another thing to note is that in the past 20 years, traffic volumes have been decreasing. So a lane repurposing going from 4 lanes to 2 lanes could be considered in the future, but right now it doesn't meet those traffic volume requirements. All right, moving off to the next section of the corridor by the Innovation District between 12th and 6th Street. What's out there today is the 4-lane roads. There are some medians here and there, but there's a 2-way center left turn lane for most of the area, as well as parking in some areas. And what's proposed here is more of the transformative change where a cycle track is added to the south side of the road on the right side of your screen. And that's paired with the lane repurposing. So instead of having 2 vehicle lanes in each direction, we're proposing a single lane. Similar to the other segment, the sidewalks are slightly wider here, not quite as wide as in the other segment, but about 12 feet on each side. Opportunities for landscaping, which has been shown to visually narrow the road to drivers and encourage them to maintain a slower speed. And one other thing that was important I wanted to point out in this alternative was to make sure that transit stops in the eastbound direction could still be accommodated. And that's why the buffer area or the median you see between the car in the red car in the lane and the cycle track is 8 feet. And that can accommodate any transit loading and unloading stations. The last segment of University is the downtown area. Here we have the 4 lanes again, and fortunate to have wide sidewalks in some of downtown already. So in the proposed solution on this side, there isn't as much of a need to widen the sidewalks. So many of them are at the same width they are today. But we're able to carry the cycle track through this segment, and that provides a connectivity from campus and beyond all the way through downtown. And this would be an alternative route to Southwest 2nd Ave is today. The buffer between the cycle track and that eastbound lane is a little bit narrower because the right-of-way, the available public space is tighter through this area. So we would still have a 3-foot hardened separator to make sure that vehicles and bicyclists still are able to have their own space in the road.
Question.
All right, and moving on to 13th Street.
Excuse me,
I think it's a question.
Yes,
we have a member who has a question on this slide, Member Fox.
This is University Avenue to Northwest 6. That's so you're not going any further than Northwest 6 is what you're saying. And the lanes are gonna go from 2 to 4 and the turning lane there. I mean, from 2 to 1 is what you're saying, right?
yes.
But I don't, the way it looks, and I travel that way all the time. I think the one lane like they had, like to have on University Avenue, it causes more congestion. When you leave the roundabout right up here, off of Main Street and 6, if you go there during the morning hours, or if you go in the lunch hour, the traffic is backed up all the way from Main to 6th Street because they narrowed Main Street, a part of it where they're doing the construction. It is really, really congested because you are moved from the 2 lanes to the 1 lane. It might be beautiful and everything, but it's not accessible for people who drive those streets every day. I try to go by streets to avoid University and all those places just to congest it. But go ahead, maybe I'm the only one because I live right over here. It is congested. The traffic is, I don't know what kind of study you all did or what time of day, but if you during the work hours, when people are coming to work, during lunch hour, it's really terrible, especially out here on Main.
We can talk about the traffic more at maybe at the end of the presentation.
But if you're narrowing the street and making more rooms for the pedestrian, that's still creating the problem. Because we have more cars on the streets than we have bikes. And we have to look out for our pedestrian. But you're making, you want it to be pretty and all of that. But then it's a big inconvenience. And a lot of people talk about how the streets are narrow. I guess because I live in this area.
If I may, this is Melissa, the transportation director for the city. These are concepts that were developed by the consultant per the request to City Commission. And we're moving forward with design of these concepts. And at that point, we'll be getting a lot of public input into these designs, into the design of these concepts So this is just the concept of what could be done on the University corridor and the 13th Street corridor. But this is still not something that is going to be built tomorrow or anything like that. There'll be a lot of public input moving forward in the next year.
Is there another design or are you?
Yes, ma'am. So this
Okay.
is just the concepts that could be done based on the analysis the consultant's done. This is a state road. So everything we do on this road, we have to do with the Florida Department of Transportation, as well as the University of Florida has been a partner at the table as well. We've also, so we have funding from City Commission to move forward with the design, the next step of this project. And right now the RFP is on the street. It's out there for consultants to submit proposals on. So we don't have a consultant yet, but we expect that design project to kick off sometime in early summer. So we'll be at that point doing a lot of, like I said, a lot of looking at the traffic analysis in more in depth, as well as looking at engaging the public a lot more at each step along the way.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I have a couple of other questions from other members, but members, can we let them finish this first and then we'll go back to the, is that okay? You. Thank you.
Keep going, Megan.
All right. Thank you for that comment. 6th Street will continue to be a challenge, but it'll be evaluated in the next phases. Okay, now moving on to 13th Street.
Can you guys hear us? Just confirming.
Yes.
Okay.
This is a part of 13th that's next to the university. The Tiger Hall would be on the left, north would be up, looking forward, and the other apartment buildings would be on the right-hand side. In this section, some of the challenges are also some of the opportunities. The lanes today are a width of 12 feet. So that does provide us some space to repurpose the area for people and bikes, which is shown here in the proposed. By narrowing the lanes, we're able to reallocate that space to the median, which provides a refuge area for people trying to cross the street. They can look to one side of the road, make a crossing to the median, and then look to the other side of the road and finish the crossing without having to do it all in one fell swoop. There's no proposed changes to the sidewalks in this segment. And the bus bay that you see in the left side of the image here has already been proposed, and as we're showing it here, incorporated into the future design. The northern segment of 13th Street, there's been a lot of redevelopment here, and it's going to continue to occur. So one of the benefits of that is as properties are redeveloped, the sidewalks also get wider as part of the city standards for redevelopment. So sidewalks are not going to change width in this project necessarily, but as development occurs, they're going to get wider as buildings are required to be set back further from the roadway. So this is what's out there today, and the Target and the standard apartments would be on the left-hand side, and the Publix would be on the right-hand side, north would be facing forward. Similar to the south side, the proposed improvement is to reallocate space from narrowing lanes to the center median. And it's referring back to that 40% reduction in potential reduction in pedestrian crashes. 13th Street also has a higher traffic volume than West University does. So this roadway currently would not meet any standards for repurposing to a single lane in each direction. And with that, we're coming to the end of our presentation here. What we just presented was on the orange part, what we're calling phase 1 limits to be the core. But we're also looking at extended limits in phase 2 in the red. That really doubles the size of the study area and looks to continue some of these same goals and principles to a greater Gainesville area. And these are our next steps. Finish that extended limit study and then proceed on to the project development and environmental phase, the PD&E study and design that Melissa had mentioned a few moments ago. And since they are state roads, we would coordinate any potential improvements with the Federal Department of Transportation.
So with that, I don't know, we'll pass it back maybe to Melissa and then back to the chair.
Well, if there's any questions, we are here to answer those for, we have the consultant with us for another 25 minutes, I guess, is what we're looking at. So if there's additional questions, Sarah, I don't know how you typically handle this.
Yes, we have several. So we're gonna start with Member Mitchell, then Member Blunt, then Member Paul. And then Member Norris.
Yes, thanks for your presentation. I think I share a little bit of the concern with Member Fox in terms of the east-west traffic on University, because we see a lot of high rises getting built there. And so automatically we know that there's going to be greater car density there, and so we don't know the travel patterns or habits of these people here, but automatically there are a greater number of cars that could potentially be on and off the road, trying to get in and out. And also the narrowing of the streets for people that want to go to different businesses like Chipotle or different things and limited parking. I think it intuitively, it seems like a little bit of a squeeze in terms of people on the outside of that environment trying to get to those places or even run. You got a few streets that are used for east-west, and University's one, even though it's less desirable, probably 8th, Southwest 16th Archer, and so I don't know if the goal is to make it a deterrent for people to come through this part and make it more of a pedestrian deal. Is that the approach, or are we trying to get a happy optimum of balance here? So my concern is just that ultimately is if we're trying to bring a balance, that we probably need to consider the increased density of cars in that area because of these high rises that are being built along the east-west corridor of the University.
Okay, if I can address that, if you'd like. The direction from City Commission was to create corridors for people. So that was the direction and guidance we'd given to HDR to look at these concepts. And like I said, additional traffic analysis will be done in the next phase of the design. The analysis that HDR performed, while thorough, was not as in-depth as the design project will be, where we're digging in even deeper into the analysis. But again, this project was to design streets for people as the priority over vehicles. So that is the whole premise of this study. So I just want to make that a point for folks to understand that that's what City Commission directed.
So if people want to, I think what might be beneficial is there is a lot more depth to study in the presentation. We were provided like a certain amount of time to give you kind of an update on the recommendations. But if everyone wants to just kind of ask or raise your questions or concerns, we have a couple other slides that we could at least talk you through, because this corridor has one of the highest crash rates in the state of Florida. It has some real challenges, and we followed a lot of the guidance related to safety through Federal Highway about some changes that could make a real impact. I don't know if you all recall all the high press they got with some of the traffic crashes where people died. And there's a lot of concerns. So we do have some more data and we can walk you through some more of the detail, but I just want to understand a little bit more of what some other questions or concerns you have. And then we could do that in a minute, but I just want to make sure we hear what your questions or concerns and then give you some more information. If that makes sense.
I also want to salute Member Fox's commentary. We saw the narrowing of South Main Street, and we're already seeing congestion. I mean, we are anticipating growth they're trying to bring more businesses and stuff to this city. And it seems short-sighted to narrow places that we know or anticipate getting busier. On top of that, while it might be wonderful for the consultants, I've always had a problem with piping money out of town really fast. And to have consultants spending their time and our money on things that may not be good for the future is just not very good fiscal behavior. I think we've got so much talent in Gainesville and in the staffs of the 2 local governments here that we don't use. We're always buying consultants. At least let's use those consultants more efficiently. The narrowing is, as Member Mitchell also said, we're anticipating big growth. And so we're spending money on plans to build congestion for the future.
Okay, Member Palmer?
I tend to follow along with the same comments that have come up before. They'll probably get to this. I wonder if narrowing those roads, increasing traffic congestion is a way to incentivize people to use some of those alternative other roads around there. One of my big questions though around this is I see we're focusing on pedestrians. If we're focusing on pedestrians, is there a methodology for evaluating or developing increased pedestrian accountability? In my view, in this, as somebody who drives up and down these exact streets on a daily basis, one of the concerns is that, you know, with the rise of technology, people having their headphones in, people being on their phones, not looking up from traffic, that is sort of an incentive. And when I see this, it seems like we are prioritizing pedestrians and minimizing the citizens of Gainesville who actually need to use this as a thoroughfare to get from one side of town to the other. But it doesn't seem like there's any, or I guess maybe I don't know about that, but what is the accountability standpoint or ways of increasing and motivating accountability for the pedestrians?
Okay. I'll answer that question. I'll hear the other couple and then I'll answer them all.
Member
Thanks for your presentation. Yeah, I think I share some of the concerns related to narrowing of University Avenue. I really liked what you had done between 17th and 13th. I thought you did a good job of maintaining that corridor, calming traffic, bringing, you know, the elements of pedestrians and bicycles and all that. I really thought you did a good job there. But I really got concerned as you move further to the east. I really think as you move further to the east, I think it's really more critical in that area that it's really pedestrian friendly and all that, because you have the interaction with campus and the local businesses and residential neighborhoods that are in that area. So I think as you move east in the corridor, you really, I see it as a thoroughfare, as others have stated here, and I agree with that concept. I'm a little concerned that your study didn't take into consideration the 2nd Avenue and the 4th Avenue corridor. You know, the University of Florida strategic plan, and I understand the University of Florida is engaged in this process, it specifically talks about 2nd Avenue being a pedestrian greenway type of corridor. So it seems like this opportunity that you're putting over here may be better over there because it's really set up that way. You've got Innovation Square, it's a direct connection between downtown. So that's really the corridor maybe for these enhancements that you're looking to do. In my mind, I think that's the linear park corridor. You can do something very similar to what you've done along University Avenue in the other area where close to the campus, where you truly have a linear park there along that University of Florida campus. So I would really, you know, I'm concerned that you didn't consider 2nd Avenue and 4th Avenue as part of the study. I think it's very, you know, just you're looking at 2 corridors and not taking it into the context of everything around it. And some of the other studies and some of the other charretting and some of the discussions that have been had, incorporating that into the design. So that's my concern. I'm very concerned about taking this, a two-lane roadway for the city. I think, again, some enhancements related to the sidewalks and all that, we certainly want to encourage all of that. But I think really looking at those other two corridors has to be included in this discussion here, so that we're looking at the whole traffic pattern and not getting situations where all of the traffic that's moving through here is then going off on roadways that are close by. So now you start to overload those streets. So unintended consequences would be the other thing that we're concerned about. So I'm very concerned about that narrowing of these lanes. I think looking at those other corridors is really what needs to happen.
Any other questions?
Okay, yeah,
I'd like to agree with my previous members. That I was just in a meeting today about the downtown strategic plan. Is let's focus on stepping out there. Think about that. My two other things with this is those businesses right there, like getting deliveries, getting customers there. Let's not forget about them. And something down, the other one is the thing downtown that just gets overlooked is the trees that are there. They just shed all year. And so just plan ahead on what trees we're gonna put there, because downtown is always full of leaves. They rot and they make sidewalks slippery. It's just a constant upkeep. So that would be either creating jobs or creating a problem. It would be good when we invest that.
All right. Well, is any more questions, or do you ask more?
yeah, we got a couple more. Good.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I just wanted to add, I'm in agreement with a lot of the members here, but some of the things to think about is, the hospitals and a lot of the business that are frequently used for, I would say, emergency situations on that, on that direct lane of travel, University Avenue, and also right down 13th Street to get to Shands. But you got North Florida there for emergency situations, and that would cause a huge issue, being a one-lane highway for emergency vehicles to travel up and down that roadway and try to maneuver through traffic, and just lunch hour traffic during the daytime, and also during the nighttime when you have the bars and stuff like that open. Remember, Jacob just spoke about the trees. I know, on campus we had lighting issues, and I know the trees is also also bring upon a lighting issue with all those lights being right in those trees in the middle of the highway and also on the side. That also cause another issue of safety concern, because when there's poor lighting, then pedestrians not going to be easily visible. If you're going to look to have more pedestrians on that roadway to take away the car traffic. But some of the things I talked, just wrote down here, just the volume. You spoke about these two locations being the highest, have a high volume of traffic, and I, just thinking of taking away space and narrowing it down would just make a bottleneck situation. Both ways, it's a very busy highway for big trucks to travel on to get to businesses and things of that sort as well. So a lot of concerns on me as far as safety. I know, pedestrian safety is very important. I know a lot of crashes that occur on that street, University Avenue, occurs at nighttime. So I don't know if we looked at a situational issue, or is it a issue with, like I say, pedestrians being educated, and also just, understanding if there's a lighting situation, maybe we make crossways more lighter, or have those flashing signs for pedestrians when they're in the crosswalk. Could be an option, but some of those things I would probably consider before taking away driving lanes and adding more pedestrian travel and bike travel spaces.
So, any more questions, comments? I think they're all along the same theme. I don't know if you want me to give a little bit of info. I don't have as much time for that.
We did have two more comments. Member Fox and then Member Norquist, we definitely would like to hear some of your comments.
Okay, based on the conversation and discussions we've had today, I think it would be good if you go back and do this, what you're presenting to us today, because I think the consensus of all of us is that taking away the extra lane is going to create more problem, more congestion, and as Member Osgood said, there's an ambulance coming and you have to pull to the side where we're gonna go up in the media, it's just not a good plan for our city. Where are you all from? May I ask?
Hi, actually, this is Melissa again. I want to remind everybody, we're down to about 10 minutes with the consultants to be able to answer your questions. And this was directed by City Commission, and this study is done. And we're on to the next study, which will be looking at these concepts more in depth. And that is where we'll have some opportunity for public engagement around these concepts further. But this phase is done. So I just want to make that clear to everybody that this isn't going back, and we're not, and they're on to phase 2. So I just want to let you know, so the consultant has time to address what some of the questions you have brought up.
And I thank you for listening, and I think we are aware of that. And just so you understand, just because I don't think you can, your tone is not coming across very well. So what I would like to do is we're gonna continue the way he said we're gonna continue. And to the consultant, not to Melissa, to the consultant, do you mind if you get one more comment before you answer?
That's fine. I just want
Okay.
to have time to give you some more information.
Oh, and I understand that, and I do, but we don't meet as often. So when we are here, we do tend to have questions. And so we want to make sure we get them in, so you do have an opportunity. If you run out of time, then we will invite you back, and or you can send those answers in to our staff. So thank you, sir. Go ahead, Mr. Norton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The only other comment that I had was related to the islands that you have everywhere. It seems they take a lot of walkable space away. So, I'm concerned that you just have a lot of width on those median areas. And I understand they provide refuge, and I'm not saying they should be eliminated, but they seem to be very wide in areas. And in this particular example right here, I mean, you've got a lot of medium that could be walkable areas. And so that's my last comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. Megan, why don't you pull up like the couple of the other slides, but thank you for your all thoughts and comments. We wanted to provide you with an update of what the recommendations of the study were. Sorry, I didn't have as much time to go over all the analysis that went in it. I realize I don't live in Gainesville, but I do take it very personal. My daughter goes to the University of Florida. I went to the University of Florida. Megan went to the University of Florida. I care very deeply about the city of Gainesville and the community of Gainesville. I just because I don't live there, I really, like I said, I just want to make sure you realize that we put a lot of thought and care and are very concerned about what happens. So I appreciate you all as volunteers caring about the community, but I do want to say just on the record that I do too. I realize I don't live there. I have to live somewhere, but I do care very deeply. And I have been involved in complete streets and transportation planning studies for 25 years. And we put some thought and analysis that we did not have time to go over the details of with you. You can go back. We presented this to City Council, and they supported the recommendations. And what we're do is provide a framework for a thought process. The first thing I wanted to touch on just briefly, you brought up, was actually before we even get there and talk about the traffic growth, is someone talked about pedestrian accountability. When crashes happen, they're accidents. Drivers make mistakes and they hit other drivers. They accidentally run a red light. No one intends to drive with a car and intends to hurt another person. So yes, I understand there's accountability for pedestrians, but as a transportation engineer, we try to do everything we can to design roadways to not only minimize the chances of crashes happening, but also to, can you put up the speed one? To make it so that when the severity of when crashes happen, it's less severe. This slide reminds people that the cone of vision for a driver at 20 miles an hour, 30 miles an hour, and 40 miles an hour, narrower lane and less lanes have drivers driving slower. And the chances of pedestrians surviving is much, much, much higher at lower speeds. You have a high concentration with all the new developments that someone brought up of more pedestrians and more activity. And that is a big part. And these are our most vulnerable drivers or users of the roadway. And that has been a focus nationally and in the state of Florida and in the city of Gainesville, and was really the direction we were given. So that is a big part of why narrower lanes and trees and kind of making it so drivers, roundabouts, have drivers go slower. These are all things in congestion, while an inconvenience does have people driving slower. And that does have the benefit of that it does over an entire roadway network save lives. If we can talk about the development in the area and so here, this is a graph or a chart that is showing the green is all the development that has been happening recently in and around the University of Florida and towards the downtown. And we also highlighted the high pedestrian activity at some locations. And we have a high concentration of pedestrians. And what has happened over the last 10 to 20 years in Gainesville is there has been a continued mode shift of more people walking and taking the bus. All the students can take the bus for free, not saying they all do. And then now you have the scooters that traffic has not increased. And Megan will show you, we have another slide that'll talk about that, is that there has been more development and more people living closer in has resulted in more people not having to drive and being able to shift to other modes. So if you look at the chart in the bottom left-hand corner of the slide, you can see that over the last 15 years, the average growth rate traffic has gone down on University Avenue. And there is not a trend of more development equals more traffic. And we've looked at it even to 20 years and traffic has not increased. So a big reason why some of the recommendation is we're taking into account that traffic growth. Now, someone brought up 2nd Avenue and 4th Avenue. We took into account there is a roadway network and there's a grid of streets, but west of 13th Street, there is not as robust of network of streets. University Avenue has to carry more of the load, but 2nd and 4th can also carry some of the load. So that was taken into account for the traffic. Megan's going to go ahead and show you a slide on some more details on the traffic. We got a couple more. So this exhibit talks about where the highest amounts of traffic are. And University Avenue in front of the university, right next to UF, is 29,000, almost 30,000 vehicles a day. 13th Street is in well above almost most of it's 33 or 27 or 24,000. The areas that we're talking about where we're taking lanes and going to one lane in each direction is at 19,000. And it's very spread out throughout the day. There's not a high peak because of the type of patterns that happen with the university. That is well below, that's below the standard, not well, but the standard, the guidance from the state of Florida is 20,000 vehicles a day as a rule of thumb. And what Melissa's talking about is the next phase will go into great detail of the details of the analysis. But at 20,000 vehicles a day, we're not talking about getting rid of all the lanes. We're going to have one lane in each direction with spaced out, well-timed, coordinated traffic lights and left turn lanes at appropriate places. There are many examples. In fact, there's an example right next to NC State University in Raleigh, North Carolina, that did this very same thing. And it has been very beneficial and positive. People want to have investment and business places where their pedestrians can be, especially in close to downtowns and campuses. The priority has not been that we've been given to see how fast we can get people to drive through Gainesville. It's been, what can we do to make Gainesville and the downtown and the areas by campus and innovation a better place? The next slide I wanted to touch on was the bicycle network. And with the UF campus path that is planned along 13th and then along University, I think where we're saying is UF is already planning a path along University Avenue, and it would stop at 13th. With our recommendation of the cycle track, it would carry, and a cycle track is a higher level of comfort for a cyclist on your main thoroughfare, where a lot of the businesses are. Second Avenue does not nearly have the business and bicycle type destinations. And that would continue through. Do we have actually a slide that shows it continuing? I can't recall, Megan. It's been, but
we don't have the larger network.
yeah, but the cycle track would carry the green line all the way east-west, and that was part of an important recommendation. I'm not sure, Megan, whether we have any more details on the traffic growth slides. I think we have maybe in another presentation.
Yeah, in a different presentation.
But let's see. I understand everyone's concern. These are changes. Do you, we'll just stop share screen for 1 second. If you go to, you grab one of those other ones with the examples. We'll show a couple examples, and then we'll turn it back to Melissa for any kind of closing thoughts. But you know, we're trying to make recommendations to do something about. Do you have the one with that crashes too?
Yes.
Okay, so just bear with us for one more moment. But yeah, we realize that these are recommendations to be looked at in the next phase of study are bigger changes, and that these would be changes, but the direction we were given from council and that council supported was they wanted transformative change that was about people in these corridors. So I'll show a couple more slides and then let Melissa give Megan 1 more minute. Just takes a second to open the files because they get a little bit bigger. Someone brought up the question about the medians and those could be space. The areas where we have the grass is usually places like the middle between lanes where you wouldn't want pedestrians, or buffers like at the end of parking. So we tried to make the pedestrian paths as linear and logical as possible, and then strategically focused the crossings. So which one do you want to do? Yeah. So like I said, we have a lot of detail on crash heat maps and other information. And there are a lot more pedestrian crashes on University Avenue than there are on 13th Street. There have been several fatalities. These two, University Avenue specifically, had one of the highest crash rates of any corridor in the state of Florida. And you're right, it's because there are distracted users, but just because someone makes a mistake, all these crashes are mistakes. But we still, as a professional who's trying to make pedestrian safety a top priority, we're still going to look for changes and recommendations. So like I said, I say all of these thoughts as just with sincerity, and I hope I don't come across of just trying to talk quickly in the amount of time we have left, but I sincerely appreciate that you all are concerned and understand that there's changes. I just also ask that for when you go to the next phase of study, that just keep an open mind and understand the intent behind the improvements, and that that some real changes are needed to try to improve the pedestrian safety along the corridor. So, and like I said, a lot of these data is proven safety techniques, but Melissa, anything else you need to add? No.
No, I think you covered it all. Sarah, is there additional comments or thoughts from you?
I don't have any. Thank you all so much for presenting to us tonight. We'll look forward to phase 2 and continuing the conversation.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So I have a comment.
I do too. I do too.
I do, and I'm glad Ms. McCready is still up on the screen. So this, she so eloquently told us, it don't matter what we think, so it's a done deal. Okay.
That's right.
So, but we know it's never a done deal, we don't
Yeah.
want to. So it's just a question of if whatever, I think our, they've been taking minutes and I think it got to some of our concerns, is that correct, staff? So I think that we might need to send out concerns to the commission, I think.
They will make the.
And because they're gonna make decisions, but we can discuss it. I apologize, so I don't even remember this coming before us before, I must have missed that meeting.
I do.
And so I'm sure it must have, because I see that it's money that's allocated, $168,274,000 out of our GCRA fund. I have a question, Sarah, is that from the old pot of money? Is that from the new pot of money? Was that like, one of the, I guess that would have been College Park area? So was that in the College Park fund?
So I will have to defer to Daniel Blumberg who's
Oh,
on
okay.
the call. He can probably look that up quickly for us.
Okay.
I don't remember offhand.
Okay, I was just wondering, if that came out of that old, y'all do understand what I'm referencing, the old College Park money that wasn't allowed. Okay, so I just want to make sure that was going in there. You know, I have a lot, my sentiments are right in line with everyone else's. You know, we've got a lot of things going on. This was a city commission, as we were told. This is something that they wanted to do, it's been done, and we got many things going on in the city. And I don't discount the things that have happened around the University of Florida. But we want to close off a road and put pine trees or palm trees and widen the road on a major thoroughfare and utilize city funding. When we got a list that Sarah's gonna talk some about, I think in the next, things that could be done. But like I said, it's just a commission, but I do think we would be doing a disservice for the role that we're playing as an advisory board if we did not send something to the commission and to talk about how we don't feel like this is a good use of our funding.
Real quick comment.
Okay.
I really want to discourage the notion of planting rows of palm trees. In terms of urban heat sinks, palm trees are practically shadeless, so it's just not.
I'm still calling him Chief Johnson. He works directly with the city manager. Is it possible for you to share our sentiments with?
Sure, I was taking notes also, and I'm pretty sure Sheriff Simmons have those, and I was taking my own notes, and I'm learning tonight. It's my first time seeing this.
And Melissa's attitude was so unbecoming. Ms. Seawright made it very clear that we're all volunteers. And she's gonna go off on a tantrum saying that it's a done deal. The commissioners listen to us more so, Ms. Melissa, than they listen to you, and I will make it a point to speak to every city commissioner about this project and about your attitude. Thank you.
Madam Chair, so I just want to go on the record to say that I am very much in favor of the improvements that they're planning on doing to reduce pedestrian fatalities and all that. I mean, as the goal of the city, we want to move towards zero as a fatalities. I think it's a great goal and something that I support very much. So I don't want my comments to be thought of as I don't approve of the project and trying to make it safe and increasing the opportunities for pedestrians. I'm just overall concerned about the design. So that was really what I was expressing. Because I think it is important, especially as we develop these areas. And you can see by the figures that they were bringing up, that there's a lot of pedestrian traffic that's moving through this area. So how do we accommodate that? Understanding that there's still going to be some traffic, and I certainly am also in favor of traffic calming. So I'm in favor of a lot of the things that are being discussed and thought about. I'm just concerned about the direction of the project, not taking into consideration some of the things that I talked about. Okay.
And I don't think most of us can do that. Yeah, it doesn't have to be one of them. You are right.
I would just go back to say that when my question was, are they trying to optimize between pedestrians and traffic flow, or is their main concern just squashing traffic flow and making a priority to pedestrians? To me, it seems like the city commission has prioritized pedestrians' safety, which is a good thing.
That's what you said.
Over even trying to optimize there. It seems like Mocha said that, it's like there may be some sacrifices that need to be made and the change of traffic patterns will happen in response to that. I was surprised to see the figures that he gave in terms of traffic flow not increasing over the last 5, 10, 15 years. That was surprising. That was kind of the information for me that kind of said, okay. So I respect the data, and so there should be, I think, some compromise here.
Yeah, I mean, my sort of final comment, I mean, something about this just, some of the same stuff where it feels like as a resident of the city of Gainesville, somebody who's lived here, it feels like another the citizens of Gainesville are at the whim of what the needs of the University of Florida are. We're just kind of out of luck on these decisions. I mean, we have all these pedestrians that have to do stuff. I have a little bit of a challenge with some of those slides that say, well, now we're down to 9 out of 10 issues, but I thought one of the main organizations is not one more. And if we're accepting that 10% of going down to this 10% number, I mean, I guess I just, conceptually some of this stuff is hard to, I guess, a little hard to swallow because it really does feel like a prioritization of people who are temporary residents in our town that, I mean, they may bring dollars, but if you've had any businesses that interact with a lot of them, they do not care about our town. And it is a little sad that, residents of Gainesville are going to have to bear the brunt of it again with more stuff.
I have a question to the chair. So we operate under the sunshine. So we cannot all meet if you wanted to with our commissioners.
No, you have to call a public meeting if you want to have a meeting, all of us in the room.
Okay.
But if you want to call yourself and you have it right.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so let's go ahead. I think we exhausted this. I think the staff knows kind of how, everybody knows how everybody feels. So let's go on and move to the next item on the agenda. Because nothing needs to be. All right, so our next item is our GCRA fiscal year 2021 annual report.
Looking at the back of the head. I feel like I get to see the board better this way. Yeah. Thanks for bearing with us in the city setup. Sarah Vidal, GCRA Director. So excited to be here tonight. First of all, to see you all in person. And then secondly, to talk about fiscal year 21. I did really quick, Madam Chair, just want to follow up that the funding For the previous item, if you read the fiscal note, it's from the GCRA Fund 1132, which means that's the new funds. Yes, not the old discharge funds. So just to clarify that. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. This is a fairly short presentation, but obviously we're here to answer any questions that you have. In your backup, you have a draft copy of the annual report, and I'll kind of go through that and the information that we're waiting on and why it's still in draft format. I'll do a quick summary of FY21 accomplishments, but it also sounds like more questions and conversation are kind of around what's next. So we're prepared to have those discussions with you too. There was a previous request, I think it was the last meeting, just to get an updated balance, right, of the funding that's available in each of the 3 areas. So that is in your backup as well. You saw we call it the budget snapshot because the day you pull the numbers, right, they may not be correct the next day. So it's a snapshot in time, but it's very close to probably where things are right now. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. And here we go. So just starting off really quickly, it's interesting when you look at the year, 2020 was such a different year for everyone. We had to learn new ways of doing business and new ways of communicating and community engagement. And so we just kind of looked at the year numbers, how many times we went to the city commission, how many advisory boards we had, and partnerships on projects. It was really big for us this year. Community engagement meetings and different speaking engagements. We did mostly over Zoom, but still we're able to get the word out and received 2 awards. And I'm going to forget which ones, but I believe it was North Main Street projects.
They were both South Main. One was the ACEC, and one was.
Still remember it by the end of the meeting, but 2 awards for South Main. We did not apply for them, so sometimes our consultants will apply for the award and win. And the cool thing, as the city's the owner, we usually get a trophy as well, or recognition. So that's always really nice to receive recognition. And for South Main, it was overwhelming, the feedback we got from the professional community about that. And I would say in your discussions and thinking around what you just saw for University Avenue, think about South Main. A lot of you were on the board when that was going through the approval process here, and it has similar elements. Obviously the data that they showed is very specific to the corridor that they're looking at, but a lot of the same elements that they're recommending were pulled off on South Main. So great questions about safety. We really dealt with that on South Main, making sure that emergency vehicles can get through. So I'll look forward to kind of seeing how this one progresses, and certainly you can bring them back for additional information as phase 2 goes. So just starting out, just a reminder, this is from our reinvestment plan. So there are 3 objectives in the plan. The first being economic development, second being community partnerships, community, I always get this wrong, community partnerships and housing, right? And then the third being public space and streetscape. So when we refer to our roadmap project list, this is it, and this is straight from the plan. So you can see the projects listed here or the programs. So going a little bit deeper, some highlights. So I think one of the most exciting things for FY21 was really ending on a high note regarding GTech repositioning. So we brought that to you all here at this advisory board, and then also to the city commission. And in your update on the agenda, you'll see that we're now in the procurement phase of moving forward with the recommendations from that original plan. So we're very excited about that and the potential that that can bring to GTech building and Southeast Gainesville in general. So we partnered with city facilities to make a lot of kind of low-hanging fruit improvements within the building. The tenants were very happy about this. Just little things like washing and waxing the floors, painting, and just kind of creating and dealing with a lot of maintenance that needs to be done around the building. We created an MOU with the University of Florida Health, free community healthcare clinic. So it's the bus, right, that you see around town. So it is there, it is still there on Fridays now. Yeah, I think originally it was Thursdays, so on Fridays. That's been really good for getting the COVID vaccine out and just for having a place for people to come and seek medical attention. Also, they have been keeping records of the types of patients that they get. We don't get this information, of course, but the end goal is to try to really understand the needs of the community in and around GTAC and the folks that come through so that they can better specialize and offer services that meet the needs of the community there. So that's ongoing. Also, meeting with the tenants in GTAC has been really great. We've had 2 quarterly luncheons. The first was in person. The second was when Omicron shot up again, and so we had it virtually the second time. But that's been great to get to know the businesses that are in the incubator now and to continue to get feedback from them on the changes that are coming. As I mentioned earlier, the Greenwood Consulting report was completed in this fiscal year, and we're able to move forward with that. And then our team also relocated into the building, into the new space. So development agreement wise, you all approved the Highland Place agreement for infrastructure improvements. As a refresher, that will not be paid out until the very end of the project. So that money that came from the CRA is to fund infrastructure improvements in the right of way. So around the footprint of the building in the public right of way. So you'll see some changes along the road that goes in front of the Hippodrome. That's part of this agreement to one-way that, but also fix the roadway because there's a lot of stormwater that's there. Yeah, Jacob's shaking his head. So a lot of kinds of things will be solved through this, and the way this mechanism works is at the very end of the project, the developer has been approved for up to 424.3 reimbursement, but they have to provide all the backup, and then it's audited, and the check is not cut until everything is in place that they were supposed to do, right, in the right of way, and they've turned over all the receipts and everything matches up. So sometimes we end up paying out a little bit less than what was approved. That certainly happened, if you remember the standards, maybe you were around for that development agreement. And so when we get to the end of the project, we'll do a full report of what this amount funded, and then also just, give you a summary, right, of this development agreement. And then finally, and this is certainly a full circle moment, I know your chair can agree with me, but selling the Southern Charm Kitchen to Mr. Asalino was wonderful. He always had an option to purchase. We've seen ups and downs over the years, but he really is committed to keeping that going and to being a real presence in East Gainesville. And so I'm very happy that was able to happen, and that you remember what it was before? Does anybody remember?
Southern Charm.
What was there before? Do you remember the kitchen was actually an existing structure of the property? That tiny. So wonderful to see that moving forward. So these I just put on a different slide. As you know, we have a lot of partners in FY21 moving our projects forward. And so the former Office of Paper, and Eric, you're going to have to share with us your new acronym so we can come up with a word. But these are highlights that they provided from the work that was done with the Power District. The former RTS site was kind of grouped in near the end of our former manager's term. But a lot of work was done with Colliers on this project for the Power District, and really looking at a new memorandum of understanding between the city and GRU. And then also thinking about what's included in the Power District. Our former manager was interested in actually including the RTS site as well in that kind of redevelopment opportunity. And so we will be really finding out from our new leader, right, how she sees this, and as she works with the new general manager of the utility, hopefully between this group, we can get an MOU moving forward. Ethan Waldo community engagement plan was approved. This board was part of that. A lot of stakeholder engagement. One site assessment, which also came back here for you all to review, and then a funding source analysis completed for various parts of the project. So if you remember in our district, the reinvestment district, it's really just the parcels adjacent to Waldo Road that are actually in our district plus Citizens Field. But the bulk of the property where the fire station buildings are, the MLK, and the big grassy field that everyone knows are actually outside of our district. So there's a lot of discussion around how do we find funding in order to kind of move a big idea forward. The downtown strategic plan, I know there was a meeting today. I think one really notable thing is the 700+ neighbors engaged through the downtown master plan process, the strategic plan rather. So we will, Sarit and Eric are here from the department. So if you have questions about that, they'll be happy to answer at the end of the presentation. And then former fire station number 1, there was a request for proposals for adaptive reuse of that building. Some of you probably watched a lot of the conversation that the University of Florida submitted for that. And then information was shared about the state of the building and the cost to rehabilitate that. So this is another project that we're going to have to revisit with leadership to kind of see what the direction will be for the redevelopment of that piece. We're going to do a good job with that, Eric and Sweet. All right, so moving on to community enhancements and housing. This again is the roadmap from our reinvestment plan and all the areas of focus, projects, and programs in that section. I will highlight and give you some information that won't be in the annual report because it didn't happen in FY21, but I think you'll like to hear it. So we'll start with the business improvement grants. So this grant program has been, I think, very successful. If you remember, all of our programs were having a pilot year for each. So there were major changes that you all helped us with a lot, and not only the housing programs, but this one in particular, because we were trying to figure out ways to incentivize investment in historic buildings. So if you know the reinvestment plan, that was one of the top things that we saw across the board with our community engagement, is really about how do we start investing in and helping people who purchase these historic buildings around town. And that also helps to maintain the culture and the population of an area, right? It's old buildings. So I can't remember, Daniel could tell you how many were historic eligible grants, but 5 were approved, and we have our first one that's about to pay out. The Masonic Lodge has been completed. So they have submitted for their invoice for payment. And so that's the first one that we've seen come full circle. So I wanted to mention that. Then community partnership grants. If you remember, we funded the Downtown Homeless Outreach Program, and then also the sponsorship of the Cultural Arts Coalition, which I believe for the 13 plus years I've been here, I think the GCRA has supported that festival every single year. So we are actually working with Parks, Rec, and Cultural Affairs on the community partnership grant. Now that we're a city department, some folks looking to get money from the city to help sponsor events would come to us and to Parks, Rec, and Cultural Affairs. And so we're going through an exercise of kind of seeing, now that we're both city departments, what are they funding and what are we funding to make sure that we're augmenting, not just another place for folks to double dip, but also really trying to understand what kind of events folks would like to see moving forward. There's a new special events position that's coming online. And so I think this is an area where we'll be able to come back to you with ideas on how this board can specifically incentivize, sponsor things like the Cultural Arts Coalition Festival, but also make sure that we're meeting the need and not just a duplicate program. Does that make sense? So that's what we're doing with community partnership grants moving forward. And one reason we're doing that is because some of you know, a lot of times we'll get requests for people to just show up to the board that know that this could be a funding source. And we wanted to implement some kind of program so that there was a more organized way to ask for GCRA assistance. So district-wide landscape maintenance continues. We still have 12 properties that are city-owned and maintained by us. The cool thing about this, and we don't talk about that much, is contracts are awarded to local, small, and diverse businesses. So this is one area where we worked really hard to work with people in the neighborhood who have these types of businesses. You have to go through the procurement process, and sometimes things don't shake down to where that diverse business gets the business, but this one we did. And we're super excited. So Eastside Food and Mobility Hub, we were involved just with review of the grocery store deal that was led by the city manager's office. I think everyone knows that that deal did not move forward. But conversation continues about this and kind of where the mobility hub should be located, where's the best location. Now that the Eastside urgent care clinic is a big conversation. There is some talk around, the mobility hub, and would that be better situated near the clinic, right? Or is there a better location? And so there will be a lot more conversation about this moving forward. Heartwood neighborhood. So in 21, we hosted virtual information sessions. We had the drive-through open house. I know I saw some of you there. Room subsidization for the Dreams to Reality homes was approved in fiscal year 21 as well. Buyers were chosen for the Dreams to Reality homes. So if you remember, that was a randomized process and had way more applicants than homes, right? 11 homes in that program. So 11 of the homes have the Dreams to Reality homes not only have purchase and sale agreements, but now have fully executed construction agreements. And we're in the site planning and permitting phase. So like construction in most places, things are running behind. Trust drawings, architecturals, and engineering are taking longer than expected. But the cool thing is these permitting packages are being submitted to the planning department. We're working closely with them on kind of how we move these through, this being a city project and these being 11 homes for affordable housing. So we're excited because we're expecting to break ground next month. So keep your fingers crossed. We will be planning an event. So I wanted to let you know, if any of you went to the event in Duval, similar to that, we would like to have some kind of honorary kind of groundbreaking ceremony for the families whose homes are moving forward, and just to kind of get momentum back around this project moving forward, because as you know, it's taken much longer than any of us would like to move this project forward. So we will alert the board if it happens in between meetings and we give a date. We will certainly let you know, and hopefully you will come out that day to celebrate this project finally moving forward. On the market rate homes, we had to reset everything in the MLS and reset the prices on that housing. So construction has gone up significantly since the original construction estimates that were received. And so we have one home pending contract right now on the market rate homes. So that's 12 potentially under contract out of 33, and then we have the model. So we're excited about that. And our real estate partners, Team Dynamo, held an open house this past Sunday, and they are now stationed at the model home 3 days a week. So if any of you have friends or family members that would like to take a tour of the model home, We'd be happy to arrange that for you, and they now have a presence on site 3 days a week, which I think would be great. There's a huge marketing push that we're gonna start with that. When we find out when we're gonna be able to break ground, then that date's gonna set everything else in motion for us. Model block and attainable housing initiatives. So this is really the two projects that we have moving forward are in Quarters and Pleasant Street. In fiscal year 21, we started moving forward on community engagement for both. If you remember, we had the community engagement plans come back to you, and the only community engagement that fell within FY21 was Quarters, because we had Pleasant Street after Quarters. So that we had a great turnout for, and right now we're working with our team to come back to the community and say, this is what we've heard. So I don't think we have the date yet for that joint meeting, but we will be having Quarters and Pleasant Street together to look at the results from the community engagement. So we can say, this is what we heard from you. Is this jive? You know, is this what you wanted us to hear? And that's a really important step, right? Because you get a lot of feedback. And I think one of the challenges and opportunities is making sure that we're on the right path, you know, that we're hearing the people that are going to live next to these projects, you know, that are engaged and will be affected by these. And so a lot of great ideas came out of that. And so we're anxious to come back to the community. This is what we've heard, and these are the potential next steps. Residential improvement program. So I think this is something that I'm most proud of, our team pulling together and getting these programs moving forward. So we have 4 that are approved by the City Commission. One, the Historic Home Stabilization Program. If you remember, we had a change in advisory board last fall. And so the original board asked that we come back with their feedback to this board and get your feedback before we went to the City Commission. So that's where we are. We got great feedback from you all, and we're getting ready to put it on the City Commission to get their approval, hopefully. So we're excited about this one, and we thank you all, especially those who kind of were on both boards, for shepherding this through and giving us really thoughtful feedback on it. The heirs property assistance program, I believe, has 10 applications in right now. That has been very successful, but we're really learning about this. It's a huge issue in the district. And one of the exciting things I wanted to share is that we're partnering with the county to give informational sessions about heirs properties. And I will send you, we have flyers. I'll ask if we can send those after the meeting. But for all of our housing programs, and I'll come back to heirs, this month we're attending Pleasant Street, Fifth Avenue, Springfield, Duval, Quarters, and Smith Road to neighborhood association meetings to get the word out about the programs. This Thursday, we're speaking to the 11 County Christian Pastors Association. I can put that out. We're hosting them at GTEC to get our housing programs out to them and to get feedback on how to partner with the churches in the area to continue to get the word out. So if any of you have pastors that, you know, attend that group, please encourage them to ask questions. We're going to have information there for them. But that's 11:45 at GTAC on Thursday. We are also giving a social service provider informational session on March 3rd and tabling for some Black History Month events. So I will get this calendar after the meeting to you all, and certainly if you're able to come, we would love to see you there. The really exciting thing about the heirs property assistance program we're referring to is we're having a probate and estate planning summit. That one is February 24th, 6 p.m. at Mount Carmel. We now have 11 applications submitted, so I stand corrected. And then mailers were sent to every heirs property home within the district. So hopefully, I think we did a really good job on trying to speak about risk property in a way that anybody would understand, because once we started learning about it, Lord, it's confusing. And it's also something that affects a whole family, right? Different parts of the family. So one thing that I think we will learn by the end of this year, by the end of this pilot program, is how to better implement the program moving forward. We will be coming back to you with all these housing programs on these are the lessons learned. We thought that they would kind of all go forward at the same time, but that didn't happen. I think it's due to each one kind of has a specific goal, right? And we wanted to make sure that we were hitting those goals and not duplicating efforts and getting all the feedback that we got from you all and other stakeholders incorporated the program. So there's properties up and running. My neighborhood is up and running. Historic home stabilization program will be on the commission, date to be determined, but in March. CWC partnership was approved by the commission and we have a signed agreement, but we have joined forces with GRU, which is a similar program. So now GRU and CRA are on the same contract. And what that will do is leverage GRU's money so that ours will be spent first in the district and helping district families. And theirs, they have a much bigger service area that they're trying to reach. So I think that's a great partnership moving forward. And the neighborhood paint program, we did get the painters approved, I think last month. Is that last month? So we're getting ready to roll that one out as well. And you all know that program is hugely popular once we roll that out. So we're about to get busy on the program front, but a lot of really good progress on those. And I think, especially with the community conversation around affordable housing and how to preserve home housing and all of these different issues, I think tactically we're going to start addressing a lot of those issues within the district. And I'm excited to hear the stories on the other end of people's lives that are impacted by the work that we've done and that you all have done in these programs. So public space and streetscape, you just heard on University Avenue and 13th Street corridor improvements and heard about next steps. And I can't remember who brought up second and fourth, member Northwest. So this will have, whatever happens with 13th University will have a huge bearing on other east-west corridors, right? North and south, right? And east and west. And so there is some work that had been done originally on second and fourth by the University of Florida. I think those are the concepts that the man speaking referred to in the University of Florida's plan, or was that you?
The plan that they have to do that.
Yes.
The strategic plan.
Yes, exactly. U.S. strategic plan. So yes, so this conversation does go pretty far back, and we have had initial conversations with UF about moving this forward. And then in FY21, we met with the other departments who have an opinion on this, right? So the mobility, transportation, and public works. And so we got together a scope for that project. And then when the momentum kind of sped up on University Avenue and 13th, we put a little bit of a pause on because that project is really going to impact whatever's approved there will really impact the way that we think about Southwest 2nd and Southwest 4th, right? And what's needed based on the decisions that are made on those two main corridors. And so that one will continue to move forward, but it'll be very important moving forward for us to partner with Melissa and her team on University 13th and kind of how that could affect. So Waldo and Wilson Road corridor improvements. This is really originally tied to 8th and Waldo. If you remember, we talked a lot in the reinvestment plan about how do you create a safer crossing for people coming from Duval across the street and vice versa. It's not a very inviting intersection to cross on foot, as you know. Also, just like they explained in the University Avenue presentation, this would have to be a partnership with the FDOT and with the other transportation departments in the city. And so as the conversation around Ethan Waller moves forward, this conversation will too. And then finally, the Southeast Hawthorne Road corridor improvements. This is really tied to GTEC, the Eastside Healthcare Facility, where the transportation hub ends up being, which also called the mobility hub and other places. And so we look forward to that conversation and then potentially moving the Southeast Hawthorne Road improvements forward. So if you remember too, we did some work years ago on envisioning kind of what Hawthorne Road could look like, being more pedestrian friendly. And so if any of you are interested in that background information, let us know. So lastly, just a few updates. The GCRA fund balances are in your backup. So for the annual report, the reason that we continue to do it is because we still have tax increment funding in certain districts. And it's a requirement from Florida statutes to report on that funding by the end of March every year. And so once the TIF is spent, we likely will not do an annual report anymore, but report up through the typical ways the city department does. So our deadline for getting all this through is March 31st. Typically in our annual report, we have what's called local impacts. So that's when we go through the data of all the business that we did in that fiscal year, and then we drill down to figure out how many were small, how many were local, and how many were diverse. That is missing this year. And so I wanted to explain that, and then also audited financials, because those are not included either. So we transitioned as a city to a new ERP system halfway through FY21. So half of FY21 is in the old system, half is in the new system. And so we have not been assured as to when this will be available, but it will be available before March 31st deadline has been promised. And so that's why we've kept draft on the annual report. And there's a note there that the financials are forthcoming. And then I'm not sure that we will be able to do the global impact piece this year because just learning how to pull that data out of the new system, we're not there yet. So I wanted to mention those few things. The city's working very hard to support us on this budget and finance, and hopefully by maybe the joint city county, the financials will be available. So Chair Seawright mentioned this. We have 2 more big stops on the way to March 31st. So the next one will be the general policy meeting, which is next Thursday. So does anyone have time on that? I neglected to put it here. Chief, do you remember, is that a 1 o'clock start?
It's yours.
1 o'clock, yeah. So those are being held in City Hall chambers. So you're welcome to attend that. If there are things that you wanted to speak to, that would be a good time if you wanted to speak to the Gainesville City Commission. On March 2nd is the joint meeting of the city and the county, and that's the one that we're required to do per our new agreement between the city and the county. It says by April 1st of each year, we give an accounting of our accomplishments from the former fiscal year, and then the county does the same thing with the money that they got back in the deal. And then just a reminder that 3/31 is the date by which we have to have our annual reports to all the taxing authorities to comply with the funding. So with that, I think I covered everything, but I'm sure you have questions. So I'm here. I think I may sit down over here to make it more conversational, but it's good to see you all. Thank you for your time and attention. And with that, I'm open for any questions that you might have.
I have some questions, but not tonight. I will call and make an appointment with you, Ms. Sarah.
Okay, wonderful.
So Sarah, for Hardwood, so you said there's 12 that are, well, 11 that are they sold? Are they going through the process? They're already sold? And
So it's a little bit different, the delivery of the dreams to reality versus the market rate homes. So the dreams to reality, those are all under contract. They have fully executed purchase and sale agreements.
Okay.
But the construction contract is between us, the city,
Mhm.
and the builders.
Okay.
So when those close, that's when it shifts, right? at the very end. Then it shifts over to the Roots Reality owners. So we deliver. In the showcase homes, those buyers work directly with the builders and negotiate their own contracts. So it's a little bit different. So the 11 Dreams to Reality, about half of them are already submitted for permitting because there are two different builders. So one builder's kind of got his in. The holdup, right, is with the information that's needed as backup to the application. So once that's in, then it should be about 10 days to receive permits. And there's a process, especially for affordable housing, that moves it along a little bit faster. So we're happy for that. And we've been in really close contact with Andrew Persons and his team, not only on the permitting side, but on the inspection side as well. Because since the city's building the 11 homes, we asked for kind of enhanced support from their department to help us. So, so Elevate Design and Construction and Flanagan. Mhm. So Flanagan was, for those of y'all who don't know, I think he built a lot of Cedar Grove. Yeah, that was one of the. And the new Ironwood phase. That's right.
Sort of minor question, but I'm really interested in the historic buildings downtown. Is anything happening in the upper floors of the old Opera House, or is it even habitable?
I'm not aware. I could ask and get back to you for sure.
And the Porter's infill, is that intended to be market rate housing or affordable?
Great question. Hold on one second. I'm just writing this down. So affordable. One thing that we're going to do when we come back to the community is really talk about that. What type of affordability are we trying to meet with this, with each project, right? And we came forward before the community engagement and really said, like, here's two opportunities. What would you all like to see? What do you think would work here? And so what we're kind of reporting back is all the ideas that we got. But we also put out that there are a lot of different ways for project delivery, right? So we could partner perhaps with a CLT, right? And have perpetual affordability. I almost said that really differently. Right, so that's one way to kind of think about affordable housing, right? Are we going to try out the CLT model? We could also design something that the community would like to see and do a solicitation to have somebody else deliver it, not us. You know, there are a lot of different ways to move a project forward. And so to answer your question, Member Blau, that's all up for discussion as part of the next phase of what we're doing. But yes, the intent is to provide affordable housing.
Thank you.
From our last meeting, we had a question about the mayor's project and concerning the land. The property owners not living in the actual property, but maybe family members. We said we were going to get the legal to see if that was going to be an issue.
Which one, I'm sorry?
I think it was the heirs project.
Heirs property?
No, I thought.
Or was it the historic? It was the historic. I'm sorry, the historic.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and you said you'd get back to us with that, because
Okay.
we're gonna do a motion to see, for them to come back before we approved it, but we decided, you encouraged me to go ahead and let that go, and just check it. And see.
Yes. I cannot recall off the top of my head right now. I don't know if Chelsea is available. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Was that cough like Lizzie?
Chelsea said she spoke with legal about it.
I have a question.
She's answering her.
Okay.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
Oh, yes. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I have some new headphones. So I did speak with legal about it. They said we would need to have some way to prove that a person is a family member. So it might be like birth certificates or something. So it seemed complicated to go that route. although it still could be an option. That's pretty much the advice I received from legal.
Thank you, Chelsea.
I have a question of the Chelsea as well. I met with you, I guess, about 6 or 7 months ago, when we first talked about the historical homes in our neighborhood stabilization. And there was one lady in particular who lives in a very historical neighborhood house on 8th Street. And I told her, and I told you about it, and I don't think we did anything with that. And it's been at least 7, 8 months ago when I went over there to meet with you. In fact, I think I talked to you about it last week or something.
Yes, ma'am. Did you give her information about our, I had given you a brochure of the Housing and Community Development Department's home rehab program. Were you able, would you like me to give you I could drop off a brochure at her home even, just to get her information about that program.
Okay, last week, when we talked, I know it was about the Spring Hill Neighborhood Association. I asked about it then, but this has been almost a year, and we were supposed to meet so I could introduce you to the owner, and you could see the property itself. It's Miss Dan Homiley's ex-wife, the upstairs house on 8th that's about to fall apart, and she is an elderly lady. And
Okay.
we're supposed to visit her home. I gave you all the information, even her phone number. But
I apologize. Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am.
Which you could get, you could make a visit like you promised last week, and you can meet the lady and speak to her as you promised last week. You said, well, we'll try to get there next week. From the Cotton Club.
So I did not receive her contact information. Could I give you a call and I can just write it down and take it then?
I gave you the information.
You gave it to me.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Oh.
I didn't give it to Chelsea because I didn't have the understanding that we were meeting with her right away. Because the program is still in development, but we can definitely all get information.
It's been over a year probably since I met with you about it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Talk about Chelsea.
Anyone else have any questions? Go ahead.
Are there any updates on the downtown homeless street outreach program?
It's a great question. I have not received any feedback on that.
I
So
was kind of excited about that program, and
Yeah.
it just kind of feels like it hasn't.
yeah, we'd be happy to request an update for the board.
Anybody else? Well, we don't have any further discussion on this. Thank you, everyone, for your time. The next item is public comment. Member comment. I would like to say, if any of you do have time to come out to Mount Home to that, to the heirs, the land program.
It's the heirs property.
It's the heirs property, because we did share on our website. We do have a lot of persons who come for services, and that's been an issue with us not being able to assist some of them. So we'll definitely, our age still be there because we want to support CRA, but we want to make sure that a lot of people know about this, and we want to get information so we can get out to our clients that the Center for.
When is that?
So it is February 24th at 6 p.m. at Mount Carmel.
The old one?
The new one on 8th.
And just so you know, there are, I believe, other agencies setting up and tabling there. So the idea is that there are going to be a lot more resources than just heirs property, but I think the new appraiser felt very strongly about getting education programs out so that people really understand the issue and like what it takes to fix it, because it's confusing. It's a lot of legal language. I mean, honestly, we had a big learning curve ourselves, just learning how to administer a program like this and how to kind of be the bridge between the attorney and the applicant. Because there's a lot of fear sometimes with people moving forward with these types of situations. You don't know what family member is going to come out of the woodwork, state claim, right? And so we want to really try to help this be a positive experience. And I think the educational component has been very good for our community to start to wrap their heads around why this is a problem.
So, who's the main host, the property attorney? So we want to table, that's why I need to contact.
Actually, we can, I can have Chelsea, if you want to talk to Chelsea, she can make
Okay.
it happen. Yeah.
Anyone else? Any other number comments? Right, our next meeting is March 15th, March 15th. Without any further business, the meeting is adjourned.